Hello, young Americans. Today, I have a public service announcement that is greatly important regarding the upcoming 2024 election. In detail, I will outline the differentiating visions of the two major candidates that we will most likely see up against each other once more. However, this PSA will be in accordance with and in support of the following claim. Compared to Donald Trump, Joe Biden is a far more sensible, responsible, and principled choice for president that will uphold the democratic values, protect rights and freedoms, and put the interests of all Americans and individuals around the world first. We are at an important moment in our nation's history. The 2024 presidential election will change the core of our nation and human rights for years to come. And when we examine the greatly different versions put forward by the two major candidates, the choice before us is abundantly clear. On one side of the political spectrum, we have Donald Trump, a person who has repeatedly demonstrated an alarming disregard for democratic values and a willingness to stomp on the fundamental rights and freedoms we have as Americans. From his actions during January 6, where he encouraged his followers to march on Capitol building in false beliefs of a rigged election, to his proposed discriminatory Muslim ban, cruelly targeting refugees fleeing from violence and oppression in Gaza, and his inflammatory, dehumanizing rhetoric towards the Palestinian people following the events of October 7th, to his tax cuts that not only benefited the wealthy and corporate interests at the expense of the American working people. Trump's policies have often created division, undermined equality, and catered to the privileged few. And we cannot overlook his abhorrent record on LGBTQ+ rights, both rolling back vital protections here at home and creating an atmosphere of discrimination while remaining greatly silent as LGBTQ+ individuals face persecution and discrimination in America. Trump's environmental policies also show an ignorance of duty as United States President, as he has willfully ignored the threat of climate change to favor polluters and protect the interest of big oil and coal companies when they pulled out of the Paris Agreement, and also rolled back over 100 different environmental rules listed by the EPA. He has furthermore made statements of using the Justice Department and FBI to carry out political vendettas against political enemies if he is elected in a second term. He has also made statements about stripping away the reproductive freedoms of millions of Americans nationwide and working hand in hand with the Supreme Court justices he appointed to overturn Roe v. Wade when he was president. He has created and made his own Weasley statements that downplay the significance of that ruling, and has tried to swivel around his statements agreeing to a full nation ban, to which his base fully supports, to appear as more moderate. All his actions here all betray a lack of respect for human rights and Americans. And on the global stage, a Trump presidency has meant cozying up to Russian aggression and war crimes, while displaying an outrageous disinterest to upholding democratic alliances like NATO, when offending a strategic partner like Ukraine as it fights for its very existence against Putin's invasions and Russian skirmishes on its sovereign border. In great contrast, President Joe Biden is truly committed to rebuilding America's image as a defender of human rights and democratic ideals for all people. On the Israeli-Palestinian crisis, he has taken a nuanced and professional approach aimed at reducing tensions and advocating for a peaceful, equitable, two-state solution that respects the rights of both peoples, and has been working towards delivering more and more humanitarian aid to Palestinians in need, along with denouncing and prohibiting Israeli settler violence in the West Bank via sanctions. While his performance is not perfect, Biden has done way more to meet the interests of all those involved in this devastating and tragic event and conflict than Trump ever could. Here at home, Biden has continuously fought to protect LGBTQ+ rights and commit equal protections into law, creating an environment of inclusion as he was the first US president to acknowledge Trans Visibility Day even on Easter, to which Trump has never done in his entire administration's length. His economic agenda also works towards easing inflation pressures on working families through smart policies that grow the middle class, not reckless giveaways to the wealthy. And Biden's actions on climate change have been a needed breath of fresh air, from rejoining the Paris Agreement to investments in renewable energy, infrastructure and green jobs, and the implementation of the 30 by 30 initiative. Most importantly, Biden has been unchanged and unwavering in his defense of reproductive freedoms in the face of the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson. He has vowed to codify Roe v. Wade into federal law and block any nationwide abortion bans that would take control in millions of women's bodies and lives. Now, I understand some may argue that Biden has not gone far enough in his policies and actions, and that it may be better and perhaps somewhat wiser to choose a third-party candidate to advance the rights and freedoms and progressive ideals of Americans. But we have to be pragmatic and strategic. Within our current two-party system, a vote for an independent candidate is effectively a vote thrown away that increases the likelihood of a Trump victory. The two-party system and a winner-take-all electoral college makes it extremely difficult for the third-party candidate to win the presidency. No third-party candidate has ever won the presidency due to these barriers. In close election scenarios, voting for a third-party candidate primarily draws votes away from the major party candidate you most align with, increasing the chances of the opposing candidate of winning. When we look at present third-party candidates such as RFK, Cornel West, and Jill Stein, all of them hold inefficiencies both in planned policy and effectiveness that just make them unreliable candidates. Like it or not, and as sad as it may be, we'll most likely have a rerun of the 2020 election with Biden and Trump combating each other once more. And another 4 years of Trump's divisive, regressive, and at times anti-democratic policies will be nothing short as catastrophic for human rights and our democratic values that we hold dear in America and across the globe. First-time or young voters have immense power to shape the direction of our country. Before casting their ballots, I urge them to carefully consider the greatly different visions laid out by the two major candidates that I have talked about. A second Trump term threatens to ignore democratic values and take a hold of power and strip away rights that previous generations fought so hard to secure. While imperfect, Joe Biden represents our return to stable, ethical governance and respects the rule of law and works with the interests of all Americans. While I can't tell you who to vote for, I want you to make your choice thoughtfully and intentionally. Don't just go with the flow of your peers or what's trendy online and don't succumb to the influence of social media echo chambers or partisan news headlines. This decision is too consequential. Our generation will live through the consequences of this election for years to come. So study the facts, listen to different perspectives, and vote for the candidate you truly believe will take our nation in a positive direction. Our future and the future of our democracy depends on it. Thank you.